Yeah. And then there's a couple more there, yeah. Oh my gosh. For real.
It's too early. Like it was hours ago.
I feel like it was a different day we were looking at that thing we were looking at. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's like different phases of the day.
I'm going to call the meeting to order of the RSU School Board number 78. Could we all please stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have two adjustments to the agenda this evening. The first adjustment is that Holly Austin, who was going to do a presentation on bullying, has illness in her family and she's unable to be with us this evening. The second adjustment I have is that we are going to need to go into an executive session on a personnel issue. So I'm going to add that to the agenda as action item number, would that be 9.4, Georgia? 9.4? Yep. Okay. Thank you. I need a motion for the approval of the minutes of our October the 12th meeting. Kathy, please, so moved. I have a second? Second. Okay, Deb, second. Any discussion on those minutes? Or questions or additions?
I think I should abstain from voting since I wasn't there.
Okay. You can abstain from voting because you weren't there, Taylor. That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
That makes sense. Absolutely. So all those in favor of accepting the minutes, approving the minutes of that meeting? All in favor? Thank you. Now we'll move on to public comment. Do we have anyone today who wishes to make public comment? Okay. Seeing that no one is here, we'll move on. Let's start with then Abby Thompson's presentation about her trip to the American Association of School Libraries National Conference.
Oh boy. So who's going to take the minutes for this presentation? All right. Are you ready to rock and roll, Mr. Russell?
Yeah, I think so. I just need that code right there, 7376. And I'm going to present it.
The staff got a little bit of a preview of this at our recent staff meeting. So for those who were present, you can take a little nap. So yeah, recently I had the incredible fortune of attending the American Association of School Libraries National Conference. It's held every 2 years. This year it was in Salt Lake City. So when you're ready, Shauna,
Yep.
hit the next slide. I think a lot of you know me as the person who sits in the corner and types. I do also work in the school, down in the school library. This is my second year in the school library. I did start in the front office for a few years. Prior to moving to the RLRS library, I do have almost a decade of prior library experience. My first ever library I worked at was actually at the Boston Ballet Company. It was really cool. What a cool little library to work at. I used to get to watch the principal dancers practice while organizing all of their, at the time, because I am that old, VHS tapes of their performances. I worked at the Cardinal Cushing Library at Emmanuel College in the Fenway in Boston, and had my longest stint of 8.5 years at the Baker Library at the Harvard Business School in Special Collections. There's very little difference between kindergartners and graduate students. It's about the same level of tears on a daily basis. So, well prepared for this transition. And I always throw up a little fun fact, but thanks to a summer internship, I got to be a red carpet media escort at the movie premiere of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I know you're supposed to say that the birth of your child is the best day of your life. It might have been that. That gives it a really close run for its money. That was pretty great to walk the cast down the red carpet. All right, go ahead. Just wanted you guys to know a little bit about me. So I did attend AASL in Salt Lake City. Next slide, please. So how did that happen? Gosh, we're like in the middle of a pandemic. How did that happen? I had great administrative support. When I approached Seth and Georgia about this over the summer and said that the conference was happening, I was very interested in going, considering that I was new to my role here. I was still new to school libraries. I mean, they were really willing to work with me and to try to make it happen. Thankfully, the Maine Association of School Libraries offers scholarships. So I was able to apply as a first-time conference attendee and was awarded a fairly significant scholarship that covered a lot of the financial burden of the conference registration fees, travel, hotel, all of that. And then I also have to throw a big shout out to childcare, right? My parents stepped in big time, taking care of my little kindergartner while I was away. They are not used to having to wake up when she wakes up. So they were clutch. I would not truly have been able to do that without them as well. All right, so here we go, Salt Lake City. I've never been. It's wild. I mean, we think we live up in the mountains. They have like mountains. Like, it was amazing just to be there, just to be somewhere new and a little bit different. I got a chance to walk around a little bit on Temple Square, so that's Assembly Hall, the center of the LDS Church. The actual big temple, like the one that is like in all of the pictures and everything, is under massive construction. They literally, you can see through the foundation as they're rebuilding it from the bottom up. They've taken all the towers off and the turrets off. I mean, I didn't obviously share any pictures because, giant construction site, but it was pretty neat. And some great hiking. The morning before conference registration, I had just enough time to throw my sneakers on and just started walking uphill. Wanted to see how far I could get. And I made it all the way up to Ensign Peak and then walked back into town. And I think I hit the road at about 8 a.m. and by about 12:30, I had almost 30,000 steps. So it's a great way to get in a lot of steps. All right. And then conference registration, here we go. This is very exciting. I was lucky to attend a pre-conference workshop on setting up standards-aligned learning centers in the library that are appropriate for pre-K all the way through grade 12. It's something that I really wanted to do. I've been trying to get those bits and pieces together in the library, but having, again, kind of somebody who's been doing it for 10 plus years really tell you exactly what you need to do was incredibly helpful. So today was the first day test driving our first center with second grade. They were wonderful guinea pigs. So I'm still in the process of gathering supplies. This was not something that I initially had put in my budget, so I'm still trying to work with a budget that doesn't really include building centers and how to build centers. So to that end, if anybody has paper towel tubes, toilet paper rolls, empty Kleenex boxes, I want them. You can give them to me. I will take all of them. I'm hoping to launch a complete lineup of centers late December, probably realistically in early 2022. All right, let's hit the next one. So what else are we going to see? You're going to see some maker challenge centers, innovation stations. Mr. Ross is amazing, got me hooked up with an iPad with a green screen app so that students can work with that and do retellings, book trailers, video book reviews, all on through the iPad with this mini green screen app, and then share it out with their classmates, their peers, their grade spans. Anagram centers, resource scavenger hunts. Yes, we do still have print resources in the library. We have almanacs, right? We have atlases. And what I'm learning is for especially my like 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades, these resource scavenger hunts where they're getting to use these large, oversized print resources, they love it. They love it. They have so much fun with it because they're gathering all of this information, all these great little like, you know, knowledge nuggets that they can like just then throw out at you the next time they see you in the cafeteria. They're like, hey, Miss Thompson, did you know? I'm like, oh, I know where you learned that. I didn't know that, but I know where you learned it. Blackout poetry, which is really popular with our middle school students. If you haven't seen that before, take a page of an old book and you black out just the text that you don't want, and all that's left are these words that then create a poem. So it could be like a page out of a 1980s science book, and then you're turning it into a poem. That's really neat. We do word drawing, photo books, grammar hunt. We got a lot going on. So that's what came out of this pre-conference workshop on library centers. Some of the speakers at this conference, I mean, they were incredible. So our first keynote speaker, I will not pronounce his name correctly, and for that I'm deeply sorry, sir. Dr. Omekongo Dibinga. He is an upstander, right? So he is an activist. He is a professor at American University. And he just did such a great job really setting the tone for the whole conference, saying we must always make sure libraries are seen as the sacred spaces they are. They are the two things I had growing up. I had my parents and family, and I had a school library. Other speakers, we heard from Tracy Hall. She's the executive director of the American Library Association. They're kind of the umbrella organization over the school libraries. And her, let's just say, well-funded and well-staffed school library is the relationship hub and the switching station of the schools. And these are the disruptors to low levels of literacy. She used a lot of train metaphors in her speech. She grew up in Pullman, Illinois, where they invented the Pullman car. Kind of cool. I didn't get a picture of her, but the executive director for school libraries, Sylvia Knight Norton, she's from Maine. Yeah, Sylvia. Very excited to see her up there too. And then our other major keynote speaker, I think I'm going to hit the next slide, author Kekla Magoon. She's an incredible author. I haven't read all of her stuff, but I have read quite a bit of it. And I love this quote down here. The power of libraries comes from offering a multitude of voices. It comes from carrying a collection that speaks truth in a chorus of perspectives and a range of genres across diverse formats and media. We cannot allow that diversity and complexity to be taken away from us by the powers that be. There was a lot of conversation and a lot of discussion about being a librarian, being a school library in these tough times. We're seeing a massive increase in materials challenges and the importance of maintaining a collection that speaks to all experiences, all lived experiences. All right, next slide, please. So yeah, I challenge you to be brave, stand up for the needs of your young patrons, not shy away from shelving the books that you feel are important to them. This was a great presentation. I almost didn't make it to this one. There was a conflicting event, but I'm glad I snuck in. And it was a panel discussion through Overdrive Media. They sponsored 6 administrators, superintendents, and principals from around the country. So there was, I think actually this gentleman was from Alaska, and they had somebody from Tennessee and from Georgia. I mean, really, truly across the country. Talking about the school librarian and administration partnership and how important it is to invite your administrators in, to make sure that your administrators know what work that you're doing. That they know that the library is more than just checking books in and out. There's a lot of work and a lot of learning that goes on in that space, a lot of student support, a lot of student learning happening in that space. I feel very lucky. I feel like my administrators have a pretty good beat on what's going on. But to always keep that partnership going, keep those communication lines going. All right, next up, This one I had to call the hard choices section. So for all the concurrent sessions, these are the ones that I attended. But for every single one at every time slot, there were at least 8 others that I could have chosen. They were all amazing. Thankfully, most of them were recorded and will be posted, so I can spend my post-bedtime hours watching all of the sessions that I didn't get to attend. I tried to choose ones that touched on every aspect of my role, because like many in this building, I see students from pre-K, age 3, all the way up through students who are 22. And I could see all of them in a single day, plus all of the supporting of the staff that the school library does. So trying, for some who are just middle school librarians, right, they can really focus in on that. I tried to spread it out pretty wide and cover a lot of bases. All right, next up, photos. So these are all the librarians from Maine that made it to AAS. So we had a pretty solid representation for a West Coast conference. I was real proud of us. I was the only librarian from Franklin County. Actually, everybody else is from York and Cumberland County. So just me, representing Franklin County. Well, here's a very blurry picture of my girl, Sylvia Knight Norton, our Maine rep at the AASL executive director level. The exhibit hall, again, there were a lot of restrictions for how folks could move through the space, what vendors were choosing to be there, the vendors that were choosing to not be there. So it was the vendor hall, I don't really have a frame of reference, but from others who've attended conferences in the past said it was pretty sparse. I was thrilled. I was just super excited. I got some great free swag. Up at the top, I got a chance to jump in on an author signing with Tracy Sorrell and Chris Barton. We have both of those books now in the library, signed to the RLRS students, autographed for RLRS students. And then down at the bottom, those are 2 of my friends from graduate school that I haven't seen in 15 years. We happened to run into each other at the exhibit hall. So it was nice to catch up with them. That was our fully vaccinated outdoor selfie. So what did I come back with, right? Besides spending 4 days drinking from a veritable fire hose of information, right? Coming back really recommitted to these concepts and really taking this forward into the future iteration of the RLRS library advocacy. Letting you guys know what we're doing. What are we doing in the library? What are students doing? What am I doing? What am I doing with collaboration with the teachers? What am I doing with collaboration with administration? What am I doing with collaboration with parents and community members? Just keeping those lines of communication open. Advocacy, advocacy, advocacy. Obviously collaboration falling right under that. And DEII, every moment of every day, making the decisions that center diversity, equity, inclusion, and intellectual freedom for everybody in this building. Next slide. And this, my girl, Dr. Rudy and Sims Bishop. You may have heard this quote paraphrased, but this is really the core tenet of my belief as a school librarian and the work that I commit to doing here in this library. Is that books, and I'm going to say books, audiobooks, ebooks, paper books, the whole thing, not just paper books, are sometimes windows, offering views of worlds that may be real or imagined, familiar or strange. These windows are also sliding glass doors, and readers have only to walk through in imagination to become part of whatever world has been created or recreated by the author. When lighting conditions are just right, however, a window can also become a mirror. I'm really holding that really close as we move forward into the future of the RLRS library. All right, next up. Thank you so much for listening. I like big books, and I can't have that. All right, final slide. Yeah, 2023. Yeah, here we go. Be putting that into my budget. All right, thank you folks so much for listening. Do you have any questions for me? What questions do you have?
I think just make a comment first, Abby. What a wonderful presentation, and what a rich experience for you.
It's amazing.
And as a result, what an asset you are to our library here at the school. We really, truly appreciate all that you brought back and already put into place. That's terrific.
Working on it. Yeah, a lot more to come. Thank you very much.
Other comments, questions? Could you
Just tell us what DEII stands for again.
Diversity, equity, inclusion, intellectual freedom.
Pretty good.
Other comments or questions?
Back to the quiet
Well,
corner I
thank you,
go.
Abby, for taking time to share with us. Okay, we'll move on then to comments. Item number 6 on the agenda, and I'll begin. I have a couple. First, I would like to welcome a new board member to our ranks tonight. Kayla Alexander is joining us and representing Rangeley in taking Jessica Boucher's place. We really appreciate you signing up to be on the board. And as you may remember, I reported out, I believe, in September. In August, we had a school board workshop with Maine School Management Association to talk first, in our first session, about legal policies and procedures that defined our roles as board members and help enable us understand what we should be doing as a board team. And to that end, we also did what's called a SWAT assessment, where we identified what we believed were the strengths of the district, the weaknesses of the district, opportunities that we could realize here in 78, but also the threats to our work. And as a result of that work, Steve Bailey, who had conducted that workshop for us, made up a list of possible areas where our board could set goals for this upcoming year that we would collectively work on, and then provide an opportunity for us to assess how well we're doing as a board. And as a result of that, we had another board workshop at our last meeting on the 12th of October that we ran from 5 to 6. We had a facilitator come in, and she did a goal-setting process with us. And we set two goals. Our first goal was a communications goal that was a response to the new law that the legislature enacted on October the 18th. It's actually the law called Chapter 281 LD 816. And it's an act to improve communication between school boards, educators, and the public. And we have a fairly large number of folks on this board who chose to sign up for that goal area. So we'll be looking at ways in which we can address the policies and procedures that this law is requiring us as a school board to develop. Our second goal area that was identified was the goal around oversight of curriculum instruction, our role as board members in that oversight process. And what I'm going to be doing is having those two goal areas, 1 and 2, as a standing item on the agenda, so that you'll have an opportunity to report out to the rest of us how your work is going, you know, what you're considering, how you're planning on implementing that. So just kind of a heads up to everybody who's working on those two committees, that you'll have an opportunity to share at each school board meeting. And that's, I think, all I have to share. I'll turn it over to Georgia.
Thank you. So I'm going to just put my principal hat on for a second and report out at the K-5 level. In pre-K to 2, they are doing a book study. When they have completed that book study, I believe it's around reading and teaching reading and the science behind that. I'll have somebody from that team, maybe Shelley, come and report out what they learned. They're very excited about this. That's principal reports. As far as any sort of COVID updates, as I shared a little while back, I follow what's going on in the state and other schools in Franklin County, just to sort of gauge, how we should continue to proceed in this building. And as of yesterday on the 8th, around the state, there have been 3,308 cases in schools. Currently, to date, right now, 161 schools are in outbreak status, and the 7-day Franklin County count is at 140. We do have surrounding schools in Franklin County that are still dealing with cases in their buildings. We have been very lucky in this building, and I really attribute it to the fact that the pool testing's in place, which I think is a really proactive approach, and that we are continuing to stay masked, which I think helps. And so for the foreseeable future, or at least through Christmas break, we would like to proceed as we are now. And it was also suggested, Johanna suggested that we add some language into our handbook. I sort of passed it around to you guys about, what quantifies after school, what, gives you some guidance around after school activities. And I hope that this makes sense. If it doesn't, please ask questions. But this was right out of the SOP, is that correct? Lindsay?
I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
This
I'm not gonna lie.
chart that we
Oh,
added
yes.
into the?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is directly out of the SOP.
So this isn't our language, this was language that came
Yep.
out, that we used.
Yep, and it's in the handbook part now, yep.
And I think next month, we will be reporting out, or we will be bringing our, sort of our winter sports protocols to you. We're working on that now. So what I can say about that is that schools are all over the place with it. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. But we have a little bit of time, and schools are making decisions right now, so we'll report out at the next board meeting. That's all I got.
Chris? Yes.
It's my understanding that SAD 58 switched over to mask mandate at their last board meeting, correct?
Yes.
And they had, my understanding is they had over 130 students that were out for the month of September. So I think much to the challenges we've had and comments, I think our kids were able to be in school and participate. And that, to me, was what we talked about was our primary fiduciary duty, keep kids in school. So,
And I think that's the biggest piece of this is the most disruption for schools is happening around the kids that have to quarantine.
Right.
And Mount Blue is also facing this sort of the same thing. We're getting daily help notices from them as well. So we're not really seeing any downward trend at this point.
it doesn't seem to be, the data seems to still be tracking. I mean, last week was an all-time high in cases in the
Yeah.
state. I think we're just gonna have to keep trucking here, and the guidelines have not changed any from the beginning of the year as to what constitutes quarantining based on the masks. So, like I said before, it's nobody's favorite thing, but if it keeps the kids in school by satisfying the state law, I think that's where we need to be in order to keep the kids in school. So the proposals, are we gonna review again in December, or are you?
I'll review it month to month, but,
It's looking.
I think most schools right now are sort of saying, let's get through Christmas break. We can get together with families and let's see how things play out. So,
Yeah, because we'll be back. That second week is, I think we meet fairly early in January, right? We meet almost the 8th or the 9th. So,
And actually, we'll have experienced 2 holidays during that period, where there'll be opportunities for children to be with their families and extended families for both Thanksgiving and Christmas during that period of time.
so continue with no action.
Yes. Thank you. Are there any questions about this chart and what this chart means? I feel I'm looking, they have a question
I
mark
can't
on
help
your
my
face.
furrowed brow.
Above the mask.
I guess I'm just, and this may not be a school-related question, but why are they having to quarantine outside of school, but not in school? On this chart here, it says that if the school enforces mandatory masking,
Because it depends on what measures are in place and what ones that they're taking part in. So this is the state's, this is not, like, this isn't what we came up with, this is what the Department of Education as well as the Maine CDC has come up with. So it is hard. I have no 100% rationale because I'm not the one who wrote it, but as far as because I'm gonna speculate, I guess, in the most roundabout way that I can from what I have heard, is that because you have the population of the students in a classroom that you know have done the pool testing, so you know that if their pool was not positive, that that classroom or those who are participating are not picking it up, and if you have the masks, you know what's going on. But as that just allows them to be here because it's a controlled environment, because you have the spacing, you have the masks, you have the testing all in place. Whereas once they go outside of here, they're not wearing masks, they're not doing those sorts of things, and it allows them to be in school without missing school, but not so much in the community. So it's not ours. It's just what we're being asked to enforce.
And Lindsay, isn't the reality that parents really will monitor that this is a recommendation? Clearly, it's a controlled environment in the building. We know they have the masks on. We know we're doing the regular testing, pool testing or antigen testing if we need to do that. And, you know, then if they are out in the community, they don't have their mask on, that becomes a parent decision about, you know, the preference is for them to quarantine, but clearly we're not going to be the quarantine.
Yeah, I mean, we're not, yeah. There is frustration, I will say, at the nursing level of school nurses, that just, you know, we tell them this, but then they can do what they choose to do with this information outside of the building. And it is hard to try to explain this to a parent and tell them that this is what they have to do during school, and this is, they can be here, but then when they're out there, this is what they should be doing, but it's not necessarily done. So it is frustrating still on all levels. That's why, you know, it's, you're asked to do something, but again, we're not enforcing that. And then, you know, some people will be like, well, you know, can't the health officer, okay, well, I'm gonna put that hat on for a second. As the health officer, I can't enforce that because technically if I didn't work in this building, then I wouldn't have that information anyways. So like, I do keep them very separate. So.
That answers your question?
Yeah, no, and I just asked for clarification because I have been asked several times as well. And it's confusing to understand as a parent why the rules differ from school to after school activities. So thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah. It's
Any
clear
other
as mud.
questions or comments about this chart? Chris?
I was just gonna say that part of our compliance with the state is to provide this regardless of how it's ultimately enforced.
Absolutely.
So that might be where the confusion
We have to adhere to the state and CDC guidelines
Correct.
as a record. Good point. Good point. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, very good. Anything else? No, that's it. Okay, so we'll move on to Seth.
Yeah, so I guess our quarter closed last week. In K through 5, they're getting progress reports together. I think the plan K through 2, they'll go home in parent folders. We're going to mail 3 through 5 home because they're trying out a power school for progress reports. Because we only do report cards for K through 5 at the semester. But they're doing their progress reports at power school. So we're going to mail those out. I think it's probably going to be Monday with the day off this week. I don't think we can get it all pulled together. 6 through 8 and 9 through 12, we're doing report cards. So I can't believe we're already here. It seemed like it was a blink of an eye and a quarter is gone. Teams are also doing parent-teacher conferences. I think some have already started. I know Shelley has hers next week. I think high school is doing the first weeks of December.
Yeah, the 9th, I think.
Yeah, right after Thanksgiving. So, you know, parents should be looking for, I think most people are using Sign Up Genius to schedule those. So those are coming up. High school wrapped up the first phase of the project, the cross-curriculum content project they're working on. And I think right now the first summative is a reflection movie, a summary and reflection of their work done so far. So the first phase of the project was kind of find an idea that they wanted to work on. Then the next phases are creating an action plan and carrying out that action plan. So right now the kids are doing their first summative, and it's kind of a review and reflection. Is there anything
Do you
else?
want me to speak to that real quick?
Yeah, Ro has.
Okay, so the kids, we kind of, for our first attempt at this project, chose a theme for them because it's our first time trying to do this. So we chose to focus on food, and so they're bringing that into their humanities. Where does our food come from? We've done a couple of field trips. They went to an organic farm and helped harvest. We've had some guest speakers come in. So I think all in all, I mean, we even included Day of the Dead and culture. So all in all, they've had about 11 different learning experiences in the first quarter. So now we've asked them to reflect. We asked them to choose 3 of those experiences, reflect on how their opinion, day one we said, what is the meaning of food to you? So now they're taking those reflections, synthesizing them, making connections between them and how their reflection on where their food comes from has changed. So then from there, the ultimate goal is for by the end of the year, the kids to have come up with some sort of a culminating project that would help the community, a presentation, a structure, something that they see a need for in our community. So that's what we're building towards.
Thank you. That's much better than my version. The only thing I have to say is that I came up with this idea last year, at the end of the year, after budget season, after everything, and I was like, how we got to show that what we can do here is different than sitting on a computer, and the team has taken off with this. I've been giving them time. My job as an administrator is to support them with time and money if I can. I submitted a grant. We'll see if I get it. But they've just taken off with it. Every Tuesday they're working on this. They're creating rubrics, and I'm really impressed. And I think it will continue. And ultimately, like Rose said, we help them a little bit with the idea, but in the future, it's them really taking a hold of something. So I'm pretty excited about it. So another really cool thing. So I went to Foster Tech last Wednesday, and just for they have an annual to meet grant funding committee meeting. And I talked to Chris Davis after the meeting. He said, our juniors come, but the 9th and 10th graders sometimes need some experiences, and they're working on middle school. So he came up today and met with Brittany and Heidi and I, and starting the second semester, we're going to do some stuff with middle school where they're going to come here for 6-week sessions where they come once a week. And they piloted with Kingfield, and they did photography, I think, to start. They do 5 weeks here. They'll come up, use our space, and then the kids will get to travel down to just get that experience of what the Foster Tech can offer, but also maybe some hands-on related to some careers. And I just want to bring more here where it breaks up what we do, offers something a little bit extra. And then in that conversation, we started to throw around some ideas for our 9th and 10th graders to have a one-day experience where we were thinking about them coming here. And I think we ended about maybe sending our kids down for one day, maybe a building trades experience. So I was really excited about that conversation. Heidi said it's been building for a few years of talking, and it seems like it's going to happen. So I'm really excited about that. My video, I did my 10th video last week. I've been every Friday, I've done them. They've gone up and down in viewers. Last week's was really good. I think Mrs. Welch's freestyle skiing background helped.
That was a great
So I'm doing my get to know a staff member. I talked to Jan, I'm like, oh, thank you. Perfect. This is because it is, I've been watching YouTube how to do it. You gotta have some entertainment in there, and you gotta have the little things. And this week I came up to the middle school and high school, and I'm gonna have student correspondence. Hopefully they're gonna start next week. They're gonna meet with me on Monday, give me a minute of content, 45 seconds, because you have to keep the videos short, to give a picture from a student's perspective what's going on in middle school and high school to start. So I had some volunteers. I just got to narrow them in on their ideas. So that's going to continue. And as far as the Tuesday release, the early release, I don't have a full present plan yet because I had my first meeting with the Mountain. We haven't picked dates. They're all in on Ski Tuesday. I think it's going to run from early January through March. With a nice, because I told them I wanted to do the all school ski day again.
Yeah.
And they thought it'd be a great last experience for the Ski Tuesday to everyone go up. So I'm meeting with them on the 17th. I think at the December meeting I'll have the dates hammered out. There's a couple things we have with Foster's on certain days. I don't think I could do the early releases every Tuesday for. I think I'm still gonna have to flip-flop every other week because I have to get at least one student out to McGalloway on a bus. So if we end early, and we go to the mountain, I might have like 2 stranded kids when they come back from foster. So I'm working out those details. The teams have worked on modified schedules. So if we get out early, we still get our content in. So we are working on it. I just don't have the dates. I want to have everything when I come back. So yeah, that's all I have on my notes.
Seth, I just have to comment, none of us can be in the building all the time, even if you're sharing with us all the events that are going on in the school that are really fun for us to be able to see. And I've so enjoyed your videos. I enjoyed the interview with the young woman from the high school who participated in Joanne Dixon's leadership conference, talking about the personal value that was for her to hear the sharing of other people's stories. I love seeing the K1 guys out there spreading mulch on the playground.
They moved a lot of mulch.
I
That was a big pile, yeah.
I enjoyed watching the kids holding the owls from Chewonki and being dressed up in various costumes right before Halloween. So it's a real treat to have that weekly sort of oral history of, a week in the life of the school and all the wonderful things academically that are going on. And I think having student interviewers will be a terrific addition to that weekly update.
Yeah, they seemed really excited about it, so I just got to keep them zoned in. They had some pretty far to, I was like, okay, well, I don't want to tell you what to do, but like, let's bring it this way a little bit, so
Might
thank
get
you.
surprised.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving along then, we will move to our committee reports. We'll start with
Student rep?
Oh, I'm sorry, student rep. I apologize.
I don't have much. The soccer season ended. The girls made it to the Southern Maine Championship, but we lost to North Yarmouth Academy. The drama club is doing their play, Little Shop of Horrors. It's the weekend of the 19th, I believe. And like my dad said, the high school just finished the first quarter, so this week everyone kind of is just starting fresh with all their classes, and I think everyone did okay for the first quarter, so it's good. It's our first normal quarter back without going remote for a while. So.
And I just want to add the times on the play. On the 19th and 20th, it's at 7 p.m., and on the 21st, this Sunday, it's at 2. So, and you can't pre-buy tickets. I asked Aaron, you have to buy at the door.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Apologize for skipping over you. Won't do that next time. Okay, now I think we can move on to committee reports. We'll start with the policy committee and Kathy.
We met Monday on the 1st, 3 o'clock. We meeting on Mondays from now on. We had a full agenda, and we've started our reviews of policies in 2018, and we've got 2 action things coming up. And our next meeting will be Monday, December 6th at 3 o'clock. That's it.
We're hosting those meetings here at the building.
Yes, they're here at 10.
Thank you, Kathy.
Wherever they tell me to be.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Finance committee, Chris.
Yes, finance meets 5 p.m. before the school board meeting, and each month, and they now have a new fancy snazzy agenda, which will be posted ahead of time on the website, and outlines our events that we're going to be covering. And I think we had a very good discussion at the meetings where we're tracking certain things up, certain things down, and both Roxanne and Sheila are all over it. We're doing very well, I think, considering a lot of unknowns going on with record inflation and record fuel costs and record labor costs and labor shortages and having to fit difficult finding staff and all those fun things you can watch on the news and make your head spin. And I think the administration's doing good navigating through those difficult storms. We are going to be starting the budget process, which I think is kicking off with the staff meeting on the 16th. And what we've got scheduled right now is mark your calendars for an exciting budget process. We'll start every Tuesday at 4 p.m. in January for the first 4 weeks. for our committee will be meeting for that, so feel free to come in and enjoy the fireworks. And if necessary, if me being too long-winded and whatnot, we've got a couple contingent meetings set for the first 2 weeks of February if necessary. Hopefully by then we'll be dialed in. And then we'll come in and do hopefully our first presentation the first week in March to the board, who will, I'm hoping, most graciously bow to our significant knowledge and hard work we've done, and hopefully we're good there. If not, we still need to fine tune the budget. We will have 2 contingent meetings after that with the board for the 15th and 22nd of March. So those of you who are planners like I am, multiple meetings, please fill those in. We will be loading those on the website so people can see and the public can participate and track that way, so that we can try to have everything wrapped up for the first week in April, so the lawyers can do all their hocus pocus and count the days and get everything set, so we can track for the 1st of June for the official budget hearing, and then the vote the second Tuesday in June, which will be the 7th. First Tuesday in June, which will be the vote on the 7th.
Which is the 7th, yeah.
Yes, and then we will ratify the end of June before we wrap up my last meeting on the board. I think we got a good process outlined. We encourage everyone to be an active participant in that and be proactive rather than reactive, and get your requests and needs in and get that stuff done so that we can have a good process and we don't get the call of, which invariably happens when somebody comes in the 11th hour and says, why is this or why is it that? So I'm asking everyone to try to participate ahead, to be proactive. We're going to try to do an open book on this so that people can ask their questions and not choose June 1st public hearing where we're at the point we can't do anything for adjustments, so we can try to have everything outlined ahead of time and be lined up. So I think it'll be a good process. Luckily, we didn't have to do any other bids or contract coverage, so I think we're good, and there's no present budget adjustments to put in front of the board at this time. So if you're looking for the funnest committee out there and full of vim and vigor, feel free to join us next month at 5.
Thank you, Chris, I appreciate that. And facilities, Deborah.
We meet the first Thursday of every month at 5 o'clock here in the conference rooms. If you're interested in hearing about what's going on with the nuts and bolts of the building, that's the place to be. We did meet last Thursday and went over a report from the Turner report, which was 11, I think, years old. Just kind of updated it. We had updated it previously and just really looked at, basically we've got a kind of a wish list on a 1, 5, and 10-year plan to include some paving, adding some additional parking spots in the future, looking at a paving issue right outside the gym just to make that ADA compliant when the snow comes, so that it's an easy egress for everybody. A few little leaks that only happen when it's raining really hard, according to Jeff, and we've got people coming to look at that and try to catch things in, get those finished. We've got landscaping wish list for the future, finishing the painting of the big fence out here, and possibly with white stones. I think if you've seen the town of Mexico, they've done something very similar, but putting in the great big wood Lakers out on that kind of berm area would be kind of a nice addition. So that's on the list.
Just wrap it all in Lake Road.
Jeff, is there anything you want to speak to?
No, I think you have it there. I'm trying to think if there's anything pretty much on that list.
I mean, the minutes will be posted as well on the website. The other thing was the portable and getting that railing and that fixed up before winter so that it is safe and there's no splinters and that it's not slippery. So that's on Jeff's and his crew's list of things to do before the snow flies.
Any questions or comments for Deb? Okay. I would I'd just like to point out, we've had a lot of dates thrown out about these various three committees and when they're meeting. And obviously, as Chris indicated, with you know, the budget process launching in January, there are going to be a lot of additional meetings that would not typically occur. We have had some great assistance on the part of Sean, stepping in a very short period of time, making a lot of corrections on the website. But in addition to that, he's created within the school board drop-down menu, a place for each of the three committees that contains the dates of all their meetings, the people who are on that committee with a link to their email address so that people can email you if they have a question or concern. Additionally, that's a place where all of the agendas will be posted, and all of the minutes from those various meetings will also be posted once they've been reviewed by the board. So there'll be a tremendous amount of information with respect to what's going on committee-wise in the district, and we appreciate your hard work on that, Sean.
Thanks,
The other
Dave.
thing Sean added, just so you know, if you haven't been in there in a couple of days, is there's a banner across the front of the website that is a link to Seth's weekly videos. And I think that's a real helpful thing, because before you had to go in through Facebook to be able to access those.
Yeah.
So thanks. Okay, I'm going to turn it over now to Georgia. Appointments, resignations, nominations, and transfers.
Okay. So we've had some changes in our food service department. As of October 29th, Dennis Muzzy has resigned. As of November 2nd, Lori Muzzy has resigned. And Kim Snow has moved into the kitchen supervisor position. We have hired an Ed Tech 3, Sharon Oliver, who comes to us from Bar Harbor. She is working in our special education department with many years' experience. She's a great addition to our staff. And as far as the winter athletics goes, at the middle school boys basketball, Robert Balch was hired, and middle school girls, Kelly O'Neill. That's it. That's it. Mm-hmm.
Any questions, comments? Yes,
I
Chris.
just had a question. So, Ms. Snow there is taking over as lunch supervisory. Is that temporarily, or is that position being advertised and interviewed, or is that just permanently appointed?
No, she's transferred in.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the action items. 9.1, consideration of a functional movement pilot program. Lindsay.
So I believe that there was information put in your packets about this program. This is a collaborative program with Rangeley Health and Wellness, and specifically their physical therapy department. Lisa Connolly is the lead physical therapist up there and had expressed some interest over the summer, and so we were finally able to sit and have a meeting with Marissa, who is also a physical therapist and an athletic trainer. And so the goals essentially of this are to have screening or time twice a month. Originally I thought it was going to be every Friday, but that's okay. We're gonna start with twice a month, and we will be able to refer kids in if they're having a sports-related injury, or Lindsay Richards is seeing just some kids in phys ed that are just struggling, working on motor skills, all of those things. So they will do an assessment and decide if it's something that we can just do some exercises with through me, if it's an athletic injury or just needs some taping or things like that, or if indeed they do think that they would benefit from having some physical therapy or being referred to some other type of physician. sports related or orthopedics or anything along those lines. So that, as of right now, it is a pilot program that is being provided free of cost. We did ask the questions of, yes, okay, this is great now, so what if we get into this program and it's really successful, and then what happens, like, what are we talking money-wise? So right now, they just want to be able to measure, like, the outcomes and how things go, you know, de-identified data, of course, so not student-specific, and then if they needed to submit grants, to get funding that way and try to continue it before they would exhaust all of their options before they would come back and possibly come to us with needing some sort of compensation, I guess, if we were to go forward after this year, which would be mutually agreed upon. There are forms, I didn't include all of these papers in there for you, but there's an introduction letter that will go out to all parents, and then if we had students who were referred in, then we would have to get a consent and a signed release. Then there is actually a letter that after they have seen Marissa, if she actually has a referral request form, so they don't have to go through the whole process of explaining to the doctor everything that this person has said that they needed to have done. Like, it's all there, what they've already tried, and so it just saves that one step in the referral process, because in order to do physical therapy, you do have to have a referral from a provider. So they could take this, get the referral, and then get it. Any questions?
So Lindsay,
Yep.
This is available to everyone who's in the building.
Every person in the building.
They're gonna do a screening to ascertain whether or not a child needs physical therapy services.
Or
And then those students would be in the program, or would all students potentially be able to be in the program? Simply to improve their fine motor skills, for example.
well, it's not, like, she's not gonna be screening, like, every single student. It's more like, if we have a concern about, so athletics specifically, like, we had started that with that originally because, you know, I do a lot with these athletes, but some of them have injuries that are beyond, like, my scope, and we are lucky enough right now that we can refer to a couple orthopedics, and they get our students in pretty fast, and so that works. But if those families aren't quite ready for that, we don't have a certified athletic trainer. Like, I am not that. So it started with having the conversation of just being able to have access for those injuries, you know, set hours where they could access this, and how could we make that happen? And then it kind of turned into, well, you could have nobody. It depends on the athlete, you know, what extent their injuries are. So then it turned into, okay, well, we can look at other kids. Lindsay Richards, when she's teaching PE, we have a lot of kids that are still working on, I mean, pre-K through 12 that still have some of these issues, and maybe their balance isn't good, or maybe, you know, things that we are seeing that maybe, okay, like, Marissa, could you just take a look at this and see if it's anything that should be concerning, and that maybe we could just let the parent know. I mean, they don't have to do anything after that, but it's just overall, like, wellness, movement, motor skills, and then specific injuries if we have them in our athletes, or a kid that gets injured in phys ed class. It does happen.
So it's gonna be a referral-based process then?
Yes. Yeah.
On your part, and it'll be athletes as well as other students who you feel could improve fine gross motor coordination issues.
Yeah, if I have a kid that's coming in to see me in my office every day because their knee hurts and I can't figure out, you know, then we would try to, on those 2 Fridays a month that she comes in, for her, as long as the parent consents to it, just to take a look if it's something that I don't know.
Chris, you had a question?
Yeah, I did. Lindsay, it sounds like a win-win, especially you fill in a void for some areas that we don't have training in.
Yeah.
So it says here, there's no fees for this current academic year.
Yep.
Is there some kind of a memorandum of understanding between the two organizations? Is there going to be that's going to outline? Because I assume, I mean, this costs money, there's professionals, therapists, all that. So is there a proposal then for future years, some costs? Do you think you'll be able to have some of that together for budget season?
I can have a potential, right now, like I said, that we're gonna try to look for grant applications and those things first, but I will make sure that she realizes that if we would kind of have to have a rough idea for budget time if it looked like there was gonna have to be any sort of monetary, I don't know what word I'm looking for right now, to be honest, it's been a long day, between us paying for those services.
Well,
in
I
any way.
just, yeah, I mean,
Yep.
those folks do a great job up there and they did a
Yeah.
great thing. I think it's
Yeah.
anything
My
we can do.
understanding
And
is
also,
that, yeah.
Also from a liability standpoint, having a medical professional looking at that, that's also a plus, I think, for the school as well. So I think it's something we should at least flesh out some costs on, so that we, even, I'm a big fan if we can do, by all means, get the grant money, but let's look at it, because
Yeah.
if we start this and we're gonna try to go down that road, I think we need to kind of have a two plans.
Yep.
I don't know if anyone disagrees, but at least try to figure that out.
That came out of our conversation as well, that we definitely.
And that's what we had said to her, like we would just want to know, there's obviously going to be some apprehension if you're telling us like going forward that we're going to have to pay $200 an hour for her to come in, like that's just not something that we're going to be able to do. And explained when you're working with it. And she's very familiar with the school process because she's, as far as budget wise and those things, because Lisa herself has worked as an athletic trainer in schools, so very familiar with that process. Marissa's done the same thing, so I think they kind of know.
I just think it would be great to get it plugged in, because I hate
Yeah.
to finish the school year in June, say, okay, let's do it next year.
Yeah.
But we don't have the grant money, we
Yep.
haven't allocated it in the budget.
Yep.
It'd be a bummer, if especially, I think it sounds like it could really be successful. I know that parents have talked to over the years, is that's one thing we don't have. It's like if it's really bad, then boom, orthopede, all of that, but it's hard to do the in-between. So I think this is
Like, for
this is a
instance,
good
we have a
solution.
kid who played soccer and he tore his hamstring, and there's nothing that you really can do for that. You just got to let it go.
Right.
And so, but having those exercises and being able to see her would have been very beneficial for him as far as rehabbing that without having to go through the whole process. Because to the trainers, like, there is nothing else they would do. They would just give him exercises. And so, like, it's just those type of things that will be very beneficial, and it just helps parents, and we're rural, and anything that we can bring and services that we can give to our kids and break some of those barriers is definitely a win-win. So we have no idea what it's going to be like. Again, it's a pilot program and we're just trying it. So
I think it's great to start wellness at this young age, these type of things, stretching, all these pieces, exercises for PT. I think it's great.
so
Any other questions? Yes.
I just want to, speak in support of it. If you spend time on the playground and watch kids, they're not the kids we were. The motor skills are not the same, I don't think. There's a lot more technology. I mean, we did baseball, and the first time the kids had to run, I looked at the other coach and said, what are they doing? Like, their arms are going out of sync with their feet, and they're trying to run. So I think any money we spend to identify motor skill issues and to promote more activity is money well spent, because you can see it, how kids move, how they walk, their strength level is not, I don't think, what it used to
And
be.
your phys ed teacher had years of experience with that facility, so I think that's great. It'd be a great continuity.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into a motion to rescind policy IHA, basic instructional program. Kathy?
I was going to suggest we do both of those at the
Okay.
same time. There are two policies that are not required and are considered by the administrator not to be necessary. That they're already part of the whatever you do. What was,
Well, IHA is pretty redundant. If you look at IGA, curriculum adoption, development and adoption, it pretty much covers all of it. I thought we had made some. I thought that was. Did we modify some language in that one too?
no, we just decided.
It was just redundant. It's not
We said
required.
both of them.
No, IGA. I thought.
No, IHA and IHEA.
I'm just saying. We were sending IHA because it's not required, and it's pretty much all the languages in IGA. It was just a redundant policy. It basically said you have to have an instructional program that is reviewed and thought about and meets state guidelines. Yeah.
And in terms, Kathy, of IHPEA, which is the limited English proficient, is that also redundancy?
Seth? Oh,
Yeah, we have a plan in place already for identifying students.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in the
it's
enrollment
statute.
process.
Yeah.
And it's statute.
It's through by law.
yeah. So both of those were felt to be unnecessary, and they're not required anyway.
Right.
So the decision was to just rescind them.
So, can I have a motion to rescind those two?
So moved.
Chris, did I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Johanna. And so questions or comments? No further discussion? So all of you in favor of rescinding those two policies? Okay, all opposed? The motion passes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
before we go on, I guess I was confused. 9.1 listed that as an action item, but I didn't feel like we did the action. Do we need to make a motion to approve to go through that process?
As the pilot program, I think that's why I put it on there as an action item.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry,
would
you're right,
suggest
I
we maybe
apologize.
vote on that
Okay, I
before we
agree.
move on to 10.
Absolutely, that's fine.
I make
Yeah.
a motion that we go forward with the pilot program for the 21-22 year.
Is there a second? Taylor? Okay. Discussion? All those in favor? Okay, motion passes. I need then a motion for us to move into an executive session. MRSA 405, parenthetically 6, parenthetically A. It's a personnel issue. And in addition to moving into the executive session, we are also requesting that Heidi Derry participate in that executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Kathy, second. Yes, there will be an action that will precede it. Obviously, we don't take action in executive session. So once we come out, we will have an action item on the agenda. Is there any questions or discussions? All those in favor? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna need a motion from somebody on the board to resume our regularly scheduled meeting. Moved by Chris, seconded by Kathy. Okay, I need someone to provide me with a motion to accept the employment agreement of the school therapist for the remainder of this year for the 2021-22 school year.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Joan? Okay. Any questions or discussion? Okay. We'll take a vote on the motion. All those in favor? Unanimous? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That is the end of our business for tonight. Our next meeting is December the 14th. Do I have a motion for adjourning? Kathy, said with enthusiasm. Do I have a second? Okay, Karen, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
I know, now